extremely obvious that Kevin Stefanski doesn't mess with Shedeur Sanders the way the outside public believes that he should. When you think about this process, it feels that Kevin Stefanski wasn't ready to draft Shedeur Sanders, and then upon drafting him, he didn't put a plan in place to handle the person. You have to understand with Shedeur Sanders is going to come more media attention, more scrutiny. He's going to be treated unlike anything else in that locker room or anything else we see in the league based on his position. He won't be treated like a backup. He won't be treated like a third stringer. He won't be treated like a practice squad guy. You're going to have to answer questions about him, which is why you need answers prepared.
On national television, Ryan Clark just exploded the Browns quarterback dispute. It wasn't subtle either. He made no suggestion. He didn't skirt the issue. He stated unequivocally what Browns supporters have been muttering for weeks. Kevin Stefanski has no desire to Sanders, Shedeur. Not as a backup, not as a starter, and not even as a name that merits recognition. And the internet blew up the instant those words were spoken. Therefore, whether the Browns are jeopardizing their own future is not the true concern at this time. They've been doing it for how long?
Man, some things that Kevin Stefanski is saying and the way he's going about things, some things are just not adding up. And Ryan Clark of ESPN basically exposed Kevin Stefanski this morning on Get Up. He had a very interesting take on Kevin Stefanski's motive. Also, this is all surrounded around naming Joe Flacco QB1.
40 when Ryan Clark moved forward, looked directly into the camera, and dropped a bomb that hit harder than any linebacker. It began like any other Get Up morning segment. NFL stories, light argument, and a few laughs. Let's not pretend any longer. Shedeur Sanders was never Kevin Stefanski's desire. The studio was silent, and you could hear it. Nobody made a move. Ryan wasn't speculating, so nobody exhaled. He wasn't speculating. He was revealing. He didn't require a reference. There was no need for a leak. He just made the connection that all Browns supporters had been pondering and expressed what they had all been too scared to acknowledge.
That should be it in terms of seeing a dual threat at the quarterback position with extreme athleticism being questioned as to whether or not they could play the quarterback position. What's the problem? I see no problem. So I'm pretty ticked off that Ryan Clark deleted his tweet, according to the reports. Because what'd you take it down for? You were...
Development is not the issue here. It has to do with denial. The energy changed as soon as Shedeur Sanders entered the Browns facility. The press arrived early. His jersey was quickly purchased by fans. On day 2, he made a throw that had the players talking. One man remained silent throughout it all. Too silent. Kevin Stefanski. No recognition or appreciation. Shedeur has no defined role, and we don't even like the direction he's taking. Rather, fans received vague statements such as, "We'll assess in due course. There is a procedure. He is just one of many, one of several." You don't say that about a guy who has a laser for an arm, is calm under pressure, and has NFL blood. When you want to bury someone without getting your hands filthy, you say that.
And yesterday, he wouldn't even go so far as, and I understand your point about maybe it's not a great thing to be the number 2 on the depth chart. Okay, we'll get into that. Yeah. I understand what you're talking about, but there's just a principle involved here where at least you acknowledge that by default, just by default, Flacco is now gone, Kenny Pickett's now gone, just by default, Shedeur moved up a slot.
Ryan Clark, however, saw through it. Deliberate sabotage is what he termed it. A growing star is being ignored by a coach who doesn't want to cope with the attention that comes with it. The primetime DNA, the pressure, the swagger. Stefanski did not want his locker to become a phenomenon. Space. He desired quiet. He desired authority. And just by entering, Shedeur Sanders defies that stereotype. Stefanski will not reveal his name because of this, because the moment he does, he acknowledges the possibility that the Browns already have the solution in their own facility, despite his pretenses to the contrary.
Dylan Gabriel was bad. Kevin Stefanski was bad. The receivers were bad. Hospital balls, drop balls, super sacks. Interceptions dropped. It was just bad all the way around.
Receipts were not necessary for Ryan Clark. The receipt was the stillness. The NFL as a whole is suddenly paying attention. Kevin Stefanski is not a shouter. He is not a tantrum-prone person. He does not need to. His silence is a powerful statement. Stefanski reads the same cliched lines as if they were taken off a cue card as the cameras pan and reporters ask gentle questions about the quarterback room. We have faith in the procedure. Our quarterbacks are all in the running. When the moment is appropriate, we will assess. However, the excitement wanes when the topic turns to Shedeur Sanders. The grin disappears. The answers are as chilly as the wind in Cleveland. The child's name is not even mentioned by him. He talks about him as if he were a file in a drawer. The rookie, the player, the prospect. It's intentional. It's planned. The conflict is being waged in silence. Because in a league that is based on self-assurance, character, and output, provides deadly amounts of all three. Additionally, Shedeur is the one thing that Stefanski cannot control, as he based his system on quiet loyalty and prudent choices. Shedeur's progress isn't being slowed down by Stefanski. He's muting it deliberately. Other rookies receive a lot of respect from the team. You hear about their grit, progress, and upside, but Shedeur says nothing. Nothing, as though praising him may unintentionally ignite a movement. The problem is that there is already movement. In the building, you can sense it. When she is participating in drills, players pay close attention. When he zips a flawless throw, reporters give each other nudges. Veterans quietly acknowledge that the child has it. Stefanski also notices it. He won't talk about it because of this, because the appearance of competition vanishes if he does. Since there isn't any competition, let's face it, a coach is merely attempting to evade the inevitable. In actuality, Kevin Stefanski is frightened of Shedeur Sanders. He's ready. Too ready, not because he's not prepared. He enters a room as though he's supposed to be there. He talks authoritatively. He throws accurately. He conducts himself like a franchise and studies the game like an expert. Stefanski, however, ignored that and instead constructed a wall of ambiguous statements and passive-aggressive choices. A wall made to keep Shedeur out of the actual discussion. The press is taking notice. It's getting noticed in the locker room. And now the whole nation is catching on after Ryan Clark's nuke. Furthermore, this storm is wearing number 5 and is only getting started. So if Stefanski believes that remaining silent will shield him from it, he hasn't been listening. The depth chart was the instant Stefanski drew the trigger, if silence was his preferred weapon. Supporters had been understanding. The reporters had been dubious. Yet Joe Flacco, QB1, Bailey Zappi, QB2, and Shedeur Sanders were not even named in the Browns' most recent quarterback depth chart. In an instant, Cleveland collapsed. Social media exploded, not merely responded. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok were inundated with preseason videos. Under pressure, Shedeur is flinging flawless out routes. Shedeur is a 10-year veteran at diagnosing coverages. Shedeur led the attack as if it were his natural right. Next, a side-by-side video of Bailey Zappi wide-open receivers missed like they were in another zip code, shaky spirals, and misreads. It was not even close to a comparison. There was no argument. A public indictment was made. Within an hour, hashtags started to gain popularity. Get a free Shedeur right now. Stefanski sabotage. Non-Brown supporters also joined in. Advanced analytics from preseason and training camp began to be retrieved by analysts. Passer score, pocket awareness, and the percentage of tasks completed under pressure. Every statistic favored Shedeur. He was still buried, nevertheless, for some reason. Fans started referring to it by its appearance, nor strategy nor football. Because that's how it seemed. It was a PR stunt gone wrong. Shedeur was simply selected by the Browns to show off to the cameras that they had it. They uploaded pictures of his arrival. They both wore the same jersey. Disclose. Despite hyping the choice on social media, they hid him like a promotional item when it came time to use him. The selection of Bailey Zappi, a quarterback who appeared to be playing hot potato every time he touched the ball, was the clearest example of it. It was more than just a poor football choice. To the Shed, the fans, and everyone else in attendance, that was a slap in the face, because it was no longer viable to claim that this was a merit-based argument. The world now had proof, and receipts are reliable. Trudeau-Sanders suppression turned into a full-fledged online campaign in a matter of hours. Fans were calling out coaches by name, dissecting plays, and piecing together footage. Inquiring as to what the devil was happening in Cleveland, even former players were subtweeting the Browns. The wildest portion comes next. The Browns remained silent. No accountability, no explanation, no clarity. Like they did with Shedder, they attempted to conceal the story. But it was too late. The Browns' own depth chart became the smoking gun, and Ryan Clark's warning had become a prophecy. Because in the NFL, there's one thing you never do. You don't give the keys to a lawnmower and then bench a Ferrari. Not in this league. Not in this media environment. Not when every moment is captured on camera and immediately injected into the social media machine. The league's biggest headline of the year was just delivered by the Browns. Furthermore, it wasn't regarding football. It has to do with dread. The media can be silenced. Press conferences are under your authority. You can even act as though the fan base is merely acting sentimentally. However, the atmosphere in the locker room cannot be faked. And the atmosphere has changed in Cleveland. It seemed subtle at first. Side eyes when practicing quarterbacking. Some eyebrows were raised when in practice, Shedder would thread a needle. And not a single coach responded. Veterans muttered to themselves, "That's a Sunday throw," and then fell silent as staff passed. However, with that death chart disaster, the quiet became murmurs. Kevin Stefanski is losing the room, according to whispers. Not because it was required by Sanders. He didn't lose his temper. He avoided going to the press. He simply kept appearing like a laser. Concentrated, composed, ready, fulfilling all the staff's stated requests, and still receiving no attention. And because locker rooms are like pressure cookers, the guys surrounding him noticed. They reveal everything. Favoritism, deceit, and fear. And that room is seething right now. According to some insiders, several players now covertly encourage Shedder to earn more reps. They've had enough. They have observed him analyze coverages, execute flawless timing routes, blitz like a pro, and return for more the next play. Bailey Zappi has also been observed unable to finish a screen pass. While rarely moving in the pocket, they have witnessed Joe Flacco talk a great game. They are aware that the so-called competition is a fraud, since they have witnessed it all. Talent is no longer the issue here. It has to do with control. Because a quarterback who questions the system is not what Kevin Stefanski wants. He wants one who complies with it. He also doesn't violate the rules. He turns into the system. He contributes too much vitality, too much authority, and too much personality. Additionally, coaches dislike quarterbacks with personality and prefer Stefanski's system-first approach. They prefer quarterbacks who throw checkdowns and don't talk. They see swagger as a danger. Being charismatic is a diversion. Confidence can be harmful. For this reason, Stefanski has created the appearance of Shedder's growth while giving chances to those who have already reached their limit. It's not about advancement. It has to do with power. The players sense it too. They are entering meetings and acting as though nothing is wrong. But the trust is eroding behind closed doors. If you don't even let your best man in the room, you can't develop the team culture of next man up. If one person has obviously earned his spot yet is still unable to sniff a rep with the twos, you cannot talk about earning it. Above all, when your team is beginning to feel that their coach doesn't even believe in them, you can't expect them to believe in a vision. That's Cleveland's silent fracture at the moment. It has nothing to do with mechanics or playbooks. It has nothing to do with knowing the snap count or reading defenses. The players are focusing on Shedder Sanders, a man who has done everything correctly, and they are aware that something terrible is happening to him. And anyone can experience it if it can happen to him. Cleveland's name did not need to be said by Deion Sanders. He was not required to. The message was evident after just one cryptic tweet. Don't be shocked when the light shines through the ground after you've buried your ability. That was it. There were no names or hashtags, just poetry, unfiltered smoke. And everyone understood who he was referring to. Free shelter was popular once more in a matter of minutes. NFL Twitter exploded. Analysts began analyzing the message as if it were a speech from the president. Because people pay attention when Deion speaks. even when he is telling riddles. He is more than a coach. He is a walking media storm, a movement, and a brand. And it's war by silence when he says things like these. Stefanski was not tagged by him. He didn't insist on playing. He simply informed everyone, "I see what are you doing to my son? Everyone else does too." Additionally, the Browns are now dealing with more than just local pressure. Coach Prime's shadow hangs over every picture. Not all of Ryan Clark's criticism was directed at Kevin Stefanski. He used only one word, Kobe, to propel Sanders into the stratosphere. Ryan remarked, "It feels like young Kobe all over again. Full of talent and energy, but trapped with instructors who simply couldn't keep up." That everyone remembers that Kobe, not the polished champion, was the raw, unstoppable, uncontainable phenom. Thus, the contrast struck like a freight train. Ryan claims that Stefanski is repeating the same error, as the child coaches attempted to humble rather than unleash. Take a moment to process that. Shedeur was not compared to a prospect by him. He likened him to a legendary figure who altered the course of events by pushing his way in, rather than waiting. Shedeur's eyes have the same calm storm in them as Kobe's. The same poise in the face of stress. That same power to make everyone else on the field or court feel like background noise. But instead of embracing it, Stefanski is attempting to control something he doesn't understand by refusing and pulling back. And Ryan Clark revealed that. It's not only football here. It concerns a conflict between generations. It's still the belief of traditional coaches that you have to break a star before you can create one. However, men like Shedeur don't require breaking. They must be taken seriously. When under pressure, they do not fold. They were designed to do it. They're not arrogant. They're prepared. And every moment you spend attempting to make them feel inferior, you simply add more fuel to the flames. Ryan's comparison to Kobe wasn't merely hyperbolic. It was true, and it compelled everyone to pose the awkward query. Is Shedeur being developed by Kevin Stefanski? Sanders? Is he attempting to dim him or what? Because the Browns aren't simply mishandling a QB. If this is indeed Kobe all over again, and Stefanski continues to act terrified, before a dynasty even starts, they are going to mess it up. The media went wild after Ryan Clark made a comparison to Kobe. It ran with every sporting event. Fans lost their minds as Twitter caught fire. Dime-dropping awful hair clips, overthrowing zappy slants. With a single message, side-by-side changes went viral. At least, how is this man not QB2? Even impartial analysts began to criticize it. It has nothing to do with skill. It has to do with control. There were signs in the stands. Give it 5 minutes to cook. Players, not bench politics. Free Shedeur. Rumors circulated among NFL insiders that other teams were keeping an eye on things. Trade rumors began to circulate among fans. All of a sudden, Stefanski had more than just Browns media to answer to. He was being watched nationwide. Quiet was what the Browns desired. They got anarchy instead. Furthermore, the process was no longer being purchased. Although the Browns believed they had time is running out. Rumors of a trade are circulating. There are other teams circling. Additionally, the locker room is becoming very quiet. Methods. Now begin the shed. Stefanski also acknowledges his error. If you keep benching him, he could lose everything. Credibility, players, and fans. Now every picture he misses makes headlines across the country. Silence is a warning sign. There is no waiting on the league. He's just getting started, Shedeur. The chaos wasn't caused by Ryan Clark. He simply made it public. What's taking place in football is no longer the focus of Cleveland. It's about ego, fear, and a coach attempting to manage an uncontrollable force. Shedeur Sanders has no intention of waiting to be shaped. He is prepared to take charge. Additionally, the spotlight grows louder the longer the Browns attempt to keep him back. Because everyone will remember who benched Shedeur and who had faith in him too late when he finally takes the field. Whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else.